You're still watching Business Edge, and we will continue to bring you the live coverage of the Global Economic Outlook at the World Economic Forum annual meetings in Davos. But right now, we come to our next conversation. We do have Dr. Taiwo Nolas-Alausa. He is the DG and CEO of the Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria. It's a pleasure to have you here in the studio with us. And I mean, I'm sure you've been following what's been happening at the World Economic Forum. I think there was something interesting that was said there about the world may never go back to what it was. There are those who believe that, okay, let Trump do what he's doing now, because he's one triggering most of what's happening globally. Let him do what he's doing now. And then after he has 3 more years, things will go back to normal. Do you agree, or do you believe that things will go back to normal, or they will never be the same?
Well, there's a countdown going on right now. 3 years of Trump, he's just spent 1 year. I think about last week or so. Just spent 1 year now. So 3 years down the line, people are counting for the next 3 years. But will the world go back to what it used to be? No. Yeah, it won't. The world will stop trusting the United States. It's as simple as that. Over the years, United States have come out to this posture of being the big brother of the entire world, looking after others and things like that. But now it's different. We now see the US as being, should I use the main bully? You talk about the Greenland and talk about other issues, talk about Venezuela now. So the world will stop trusting US because it means that what has happened is that the gentlemanliness of the United States presidency is off. It's off. So the world will stop trusting US. And any president that comes now, we'll start looking at them suspiciously. So it's a different ballgame.
Yes. And I guess it will take a lot for them to earn back the world's trust after all of this.
Exactly.
Yes. But let's come down to another change, but this time here at home, taxes. There are 4 new tax laws, and I think it'll be interesting to get a peek at what is the kind of conversations that are happening in the boardroom as regards taxation and the new tax laws.
Well, the Tax Reform Act is a watershed in Nigerian economic history. And it ranks among the major reforms that have taken place since the advent of democracy in 1999. You talk about the Pension Reform Act, you talk about the PIA, and the Petroleum Industry Act, and now you're talking about the Tax Reform Act. It's a major reform act. And it's shaping the boardroom now. In terms of the boards are not just looking at taxes as mere compliance, but all night becoming a financial strategy, looking at finances, looking at compliance, looking at how the management now, after a board has passed the budget, has passed strategy, how management can effectively transit and proceed to this. So that's is a new game entirely.
Yeah, indeed. And a new game comes with its own challenges. We know there has been some level of, pushback and calls for suspension and all of that. So as regards the challenges, what are some of the primary challenges that you see, especially when it comes to implementing these new tax laws within an organization? How is the boardroom and, those at the helm of affairs working to mitigate some of those challenges? Well,
one of the challenges is information. You can recall recently at the beginning of the year, KPMG came out and highlighting some of the discrepancies they can see in the tax and others like that. And also, too, there was this issue of whether the particular law was gazetted and which one was not gazetted. So that's a challenge in itself. Which ones are we following? Where are the discrepancies in these things? Is a major challenge in terms of information. Then beside that is the challenge of how to interpret some of the things in the tax law. There are different tax calculators going out now. The last time, our dear friend, Mr. Taiwo Nolas-Alausa, has been doing a wonderful job, told us, and promised that for some of us who have been paying huge tax and saying, oh, you find out that your tax is going to reduce. But personally, I was surprised when my head of finance, I met with him when we resumed back in January. I said, okay, put my salary on the tax calculator. And I found out I have to even pay more. So there's a lot of challenges.
It's a redistribution of wealth. Yes.
And trying to interpret these things is a major challenge right now. And also is a big work for tax consultants, because you've found out that in the boardroom now, a lot of organizations now started to use tax consultants, look at mock audits and other things, and to be able to see how they can best navigate this particular law.
I mean, you've mentioned, one of the changes within the companies as regards you having to pay more taxes. But what other major or minor shifts or changes should companies expect with these new tax laws?
Well, there's going to be some changes. One change is in pricing, for example. Yeah, because it's going to, now the tax is also paying a lot of premium on consumption, especially as regards VAT and others like that. So there's going to be a whole lot of changes in pricing, the financial structure of the organization generally, and how tax compliance is also monitored, with regards to the organization. There are a whole lot of things that are usually left to the logistics department, operations, and other things like that. But now it becomes a boardroom affair because you have to take it from the beginning to the end and see how that is eventually actualized. And
I think you mentioned compliance there,
yes.
And taking it just beyond the administrative arm. So how do you recommend companies ensure compliance at all levels, from the boardroom to the factory floor and everybody in between?
Fantastic. Now, what we've done in the Charter of Directors since last December is to sensitize our members. We had a tax symposium, which took place at the CIBN house in November. Then, of course, we had a podcast. It's still on our YouTube channel, where to sensitize our members. And we have series of other broadcasts and information going out in news bulletins and all. So there are a lot of sensitization going on, and which the boardroom too. And I also expect the organizations to get into. Aside from training, you have to ensure that now from the boardroom, the board itself is well informed, well trained about the tax law, and also all members of the organization are also well sensitized. Down, you can have knowledge checks, knowledge sessions, KSS sessions in the course of the organization all through, so that everybody can best understand what the tax is all about. Yes.
And when it comes to, aside from sensitization, which is very important, the strategies, right? What kind of strategies for compliance should companies be looking to, align with? Well,
there's what we call now that within an organization, you can have your own tax policy and understand what it is like. For example, people in HR or admin cannot just take up vendors that are not tax compliant, that don't have teams, So you can have a tax policy around this. You can have mock audits, which is also very, very important, that can happen with it. And those things will help streamline the process.
And the board strategy when it comes to ensuring efficiency, right? Yes, you've mentioned a couple, but when it comes to ensuring that there's efficiency and then there's also adherence to the legal framework around these new tax laws, how is that panning out?
Well, with the boards right now, normally in board strategy, the board just sits on strategy and fold their arms and allow the management to process. But now it's not like that anymore. At every step of the way, there must be quarterly briefings, even before the year briefings about compliance generally. And that's a major strategy that the board must also go into. Then also there is a new financial structure which was take place and look at highlighting pricing, highlighting how this affects eventually the tax itself.
And I'm sure you've also taken time to go through some of the, or at least get the interpretation of some of these tax laws. Are there any that stand out at you that you see changing the way companies work for the long haul?
Yes. One is the zero tax on food, on health, on education. Fantastic initiative, and that will help. That will also help organizations or manufacturers that are into this. It's like a tax holiday for you, sort of. Then the also one is the rent.
Yeah, rent relief, yeah.
Even though I feel that 500,000 naira on rent, minimum or rent is too, because if you look at it these days, even a room apartment is more than 500,000 naira. But it's still a good initiative because it helps lower. So those are very good initiatives.
And altogether, how do you see these laws benefiting the board, benefiting benefiting companies, and Nigeria as a whole?
Well, it's a new. It changes our economy, in the sense that one, if you look at it, there has been no increase in all the tax rates. It's not as if there's a rate. VAT is still 7.5. The income tax and all is still the same thing. But the fact remains that this tax tries to bring in new people into the tax net, you know, and that ensures that the pool is larger. So it helps the economy, and the fact that for a whole lot of things, for health, for food, for education, is not factored in. So perhaps we might start getting benefits. As some of us who pay school fees and all, now start getting benefits of that, and also guys getting benefit on it in food too. Maybe can also push inflation down. So on the long run, I'm seeing that before mid-year, perhaps we'll see the effect of this in overall, also affecting inflation and reducing cost of things.
I think it's something we're going to have to watch and see. But thank you so much. And that was your background with LCCI coming to play there a bit. But thank you so much, Dr. Taiwo Nolas-Alausa, Director General and CEO of the Chartered Institute of Directors, Nigeria.